broader question. The big question in the presidential debate is, are we better off today than we were 4 years ago? My question, and I'll direct it to Mr. Latham, are we?
Well, I don't know how you can say that. Obviously, 4 years ago, we had hit a very, very difficult time with the Wall Street meltdown, and it's been difficult to get out of that. But we've had exactly the wrong remedies out there.
So are we better off today?
We're working that way, but it's the American people, it's not the federal government that are bringing us back. And what we need to do today, and we could expand this economy, we could grow it so quickly if in fact we had certainty as far as tax policy out there, as far as what regulations that people are going to have to deal with today. There was just a survey came out with the NFIB, the small business folks, say that 67% of small businesses are not hiring because of tax and regulatory uncertainty. And until they have that, we could expand so quickly if in fact we had policies in Washington where people actually worried about the people at home rather than just to yell at each other in Washington.
Mr. Boswell, do you think we're better
Well,
off?
I think we are better off if you understand where we're at when we were at that time under the previous administration. And we were, according to his Secretary of the Treasurer, Paulson, that's what we've been talking about a little bit already. And so a president's never been handed a situation like this one was handed, but I think he's done extremely well. I don't know if he's done everything perfectly, but I think he's done pretty good. And the economy is coming back, and we've got more we need to do. I would agree with Mr. Latham that it's time to sit down and rework the tax policy, this rewarding people for taking companies overseas like Lennox and Electrolux and Cummins that you probably know something about. I certainly know about what happened to Maytag. What a devastating thing to happen to communities, the men and women that show up to work every day and do good work and so on. It was really tough, but we're coming back. Wall Street's in good shape right now, as you probably are aware. The markets are up. People are doing okay. We need to do more, I think, for small businesses. There might be a definition there how we ought to talk about that. These Wall Street traders that they fit in that category too, and I think that ought to be addressed as we go into this.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I have a question about the Farm Bill.
Yes.
I'd like to have you look forward. When you return to Washington, D.C., Mr. Latham, how will you convince people in New York and Los Angeles that they should extend subsidies to farmers, and even some members of your party who are part of the quote-unquote Tea Party?
Well, we have to make the case, certainly, that and have them understand that we have the most abundant, cheapest supply of the top quality food in the world right here in the United States. And for a portion of the farm bill, and farmers understand that they want to help reduce the national debt. They want to help the deficit reduction. They're willing to give up the direct payments and reform countercyclical payments. All they want is some kind of way of ensuring their risk or risk management. But I think your urban friends have to understand that this is a food bill. It's not a farm bill anymore. Over 80% of the spending in the quote farm bill is for feeding programs. So my concern is that we are going to break this alliance if in fact, which has always helped both urban and rural to pass farm bills in the past, if we don't step up and really make our case.
Mr. Boswell, how do you keep the alliance going?
Well, first off, the farm bill is extremely important, and I agree with the food bill. It's a nutrition bill, as we referred to at the time. It's extremely important. We ought to be back to working on it. It's a failure of leadership not to bring it to the floor. It passed the Senate last June, bipartisan out of committee, bipartisan from the Senate, came over to the House, passed the bill out. There it sits, and leadership has not brought it to the floor. And I think it comes before, probably some amendments, go to conference and get that done. But you cannot go out and plan next year's operation without knowing what the farm bill is. You have to have that information. And it's critically important. And so I would hope that we would get to that sooner rather than later.
Mr. Boswell, you said that over 80% of the farm bill actually goes to food nutrition programs, and sometimes that's a source of friction as well. When I go to the grocery store, I hear people grumbling sometimes about what people are buying with their SNAP cards, this food stamp program. Do you think there is a real waste and abuse that could be, that savings could be found in that program? Or is this mostly a class warfare problem?
Well, first off, that's about 96% accurate, because, it's been monitored that closely, so I think that is something we've talked about for years.
What's 96% accurate?
The use of the food stamps, if you will, the SNAP program.
Misuse of it?
No, it's the proper use of it, it's the proper use of
So
it.
96% of the money's being spent properly? Is
That's
that what you're saying?
what we're told by reports, yes. And, it's a big item, but back to your question, and what is a big part of this, you're right, it's, we have, everybody has got a vested interest in farm bill. We all eat, and we do have, I agree with you, Tom, it's the most plentiful, the most safe, and the least expensive. Don, I want to make a point here, the big thing, we farmers are about 2% of the population. But that's not how the Congress is made up, and so it's important for people like Tom and I spend a lot of time, and you want to go some examples of what happened to pork producers, I'd be glad to talk about it, but we've got to sit down with people like Ackerman and different ones, I use him as an example, explain to them that this is important to everybody. It's not just to farmers, it's to everybody in the country, and so we all participate, so we get something
I want
back.
to get my food stamp question
We get
answered,
something
though.
back.
Mr. Latham, is there significant waste and fraud in that program beyond the 96%? Or is this an attitude problem that people have?
Well, the food stamps, with the stimulus bill, the eligibility was dramatically increased. The benefit was increased about 20%. Now, the people were hurting, obviously, but I think it's time to look at it to make sure that where there is not waste, fraud, and abuse in the food stamp program. We've gone to electronic benefit cards, which have cut down dramatically on the waste and potential fraud, but now they're finding new ways around it. So yes, are there savings that can be brought? Yes, there are. I think eligibility, I think we have to look at that because...
Do you have a dollar amount of savings that you think could be found in?
Well, it's what came out of the House-passed potential farm bill. Out of about $800 billion of spending, there was about a $16 billion reduction. Now, some people think that's too much. That's only, 2%? I think it's very realistic. There's savings.
Let me just ask this before we go on to Robin, the next question. Could either one of you do the same sort of job in getting that farm bill passed if you were elected to Congress? Either one of you would be equally effective?
Oh, I think so, yes. And Des Moines Register did a survey a few months ago talking about the effectiveness of members of Congress, and I was honored that I was #1 as far as the our House
Well, I'd like
delegation.
to know what some of these effective things are. When you talk about that, tell me what are they? Because we don't have the farm bill, we don't have a wind energy credit. Things are terribly important.
But what I'm asking,
Yes, please.
Boswell, is could he do, if he's elected, do as effective a job as you can in getting the farm bill passed?
Obviously not, because it hasn't happened. We ought to be back there doing it right now. If he's his closest friend, if he's the most effective, why aren't we in Washington passing the farm bill?
Robin?
Last night at the debate, I think your opponent raised the issue of whether or not you supported vouchers for Medicare. I'm going to give you a chance to continue the debate tonight. Do you support vouchers for Medicare?
No, I do not. I don't think that's necessary. I think it's the wrong way to go, and I don't think any of you or any of us can go out there on $6,000 with the increased cost of medical care can make it work. And so you're going to fall into a real trap. And so what we put in place, the savings that has been created, the extension of Medicare, those who want to overthrow the Affordable Care Act and start over, would deplete it in 2016. We don't want to go there. We don't have to go there because we have the opportunity to continue to work on this thing, and I think that's what's going on.
Excuse me, but was it a part of the prescription D bill, the first bill, a voucher system?
Well, the first, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but if you're talking about the Pharmaceutical Act,
Yes.
well, I always had the pits, if you will, where we have had for Medicare reimbursement, we've kind of been at the bottom for years, and I became aware of that when I went to Washington. I made a lot of effort and a lot of time with both senators and different ones, and we weren't getting there because of the big states and it goes on. But Iowa getting Oh, I'll throw a figure out, it could be off a little bit, like 3,500 for Iowa, and Louisiana twice that. Well, that didn't happen, so in that first effort, that was being included. And
Okay.
so to put a fix in that, when it came back, it wasn't there, so no, I didn't support it.
Let's give Mr. Latham a chance here.
Well, Congressman Boswell voted off the floor of the House for the prescription drug bill that included what he calls vouchers or premium support.
So
So
that
now
was-
he's had a change of mind, apparently. He voted for it, now he's against it. When it came back from the Senate, it was not included, and so then he voted against it. So apparently it was so important before that he voted for it, and then when it came out, then he voted against
That
it.
gives, let's give Mr. Boswell a
Well,
chance.
you know, an opportunity to fix this reimbursement rate when Iowa being at the bottom, that was there, and that was taken away. That took away the incentive to do that, and then you look at this, the overall thing, and creating a donut hole and all the things that's going wrong with it, and putting the caps on us.
I think you haven't addressed his
Yes.
allegation that you were for it before you were against
I
it.
was for it with that piece that was in there, Kay, the part was in there, I was for it then, and they took it out, and when it came back, then I was no longer for it.
And the piece that was in there was making Iowa's Medicare
Process to
reimbursement
get-
rates better. This is
That's
a
correct.
chronic problem that we've had over the years.
Thank you, that's
That
exactly
was,
right.
but that
That-
was
that
what was
wasn't it.
changed. What was changed was the premium support, or what he calls vouchers, came out in the conference with the Senate, and that he had voted for. When it was taken out, then he voted against it. So apparently it was very important to him.
Let's shift